Hello, good evening, everyone. Hope you're all okay out there. Welcome to our exclusive Telegraph subscriber event, and thank you for joining us. I'm Caroline Leaper, the Senior Fashion Editor at The Telegraph, and this evening I'll be speaking to Bethan Holt, who is our Fashion Director and also the author of the very well-timed new book, The Queen, 70 Years of Majestic Style. For the next hour, I'll be asking Bethan to share everything she knows about Her Majesty's wardrobe, kicking off this Platinum Jubilee weekend in style, literally. But before that, a little bit of housekeeping. Firstly, please do not worry. While you can see and hear us, we cannot see or hear you. If you want to make the video full screen, you can do so by clicking on the square in the bottom right-hand corner. Finally, please do send us your questions for Bethan. You can submit these if you scroll down to the Q&A box on your screen, and I will be taking a look at them a little later on. But now, without further ado, it's time to bring out the woman of the hour. It's not Her Majesty, guys, it's Bethan Holt. Bethan, are you wearing a tiara for this occasion? No.
Oh God, I feel like I must be such a disappointment. Yeah, I'm doing my royal way.
Where was all the
The best
fanfare?
I can do
You've
is
got an
pearl
amazing
earrings, I'm
collar
afraid.
though, so there's something.
I did the pearls, did the pearls.
You did the pearls, you did. Bethan, thank you so much for your time this evening and for speaking to all the subscribers. I think to kick off, it would be really great to know, where does your kind of personal interest in royal style come from? And how did this become your job at the Telegraph?
I mean, I feel so lucky that this is my job. Honestly, I have to pinch myself. It's just the best job ever. And lots of people say that they're really jealous of me having this job, and you as well, because you get to do it too. So we're really lucky. Yeah, so I think if anyone's ever came to the Duchess of Cambridge talk that I did last year, they'll have heard this answer before. Sorry, the sun has just come through my window, so I've got this weird like light
It's a
coming
nice flow, it's
onto me
really
now.
nice.
Sorry. But yeah, I definitely, Princess Diana was my kind of gateway into royal style in the 90s. I used to love reading my mum's Hello magazines. And actually, it's very weird because the Queen never really registered with me in terms of fashion at all at that time. And actually, when I researched the book, I soon understood why that was. I think it's fair to say that the 90s probably weren't the Queen's most stylish era.
Yes.
But yes, so yeah, I kind of became really interested in it then. And then when I started working in the fashion industry, I think I just suddenly understood the power of that the royals have. You know, they can sort of, obviously not the Queen, but they can kind of sell things out. They can make everyone suddenly interested in a colour that they never knew they were interested in before. So they have this incredible influence on fashion, really, and so many designers cite them as inspiration. So I sort of then made it my niche specialist subject in fashion, and obviously working at the Telegraph, where you know, our readers are so interested in the royal family, it was a very kind of natural segue to become a bit of an expert on the royals. And I think, like lots of people of our generation, I mean, we're kind of in our 30s, the Queen suddenly registered to us as an interesting fashion person, I think, around the time of Kate and William's wedding. And I think that's when this kind of huge resurgence of interest in her style really happened. You know, there was this, you know, beautiful, glorious royal occasion, and she was there in her kind of sunshine yellow outfit. Actually, you can
I
see
know
that on the
for
screen, the bottom left.
Oh, yes, yes, there she is. I was going to say, I know for us,
Yeah.
obviously, as journalists, when we get to cover those big royal events, obviously the fashion and the pageantry, it all kind of comes together, doesn't it? Can you talk the people through a little bit about kind of what it is like on the news floor on, say, a royal wedding day or a queen's, a jubilee day? What will it be like covering that?
Yeah, I actually feel really sad. I mean, we're both on maternity leave at the moment. We've both just had babies, so we are not going to be in the office
I
this weekend, which
know.
is going to
But
feel
we
really
usually
strange
love.
because I
Oh,
know. Um, because yeah, we've had so, I mean, definitely my best memories of you know, working at the Telegraph are kind of Harry and Meghan's wedding, and trooping the colour every year is such a huge moment. Christmas Day, I mean, it's very sad to say that I actually enjoy working on Christmas Day, because you get to see them all go to church at Sandringham, and it's always a real fashion parade. They make such an effort. But yeah, I mean, it's a real scramble, because it's very hard to prepare for this coverage when you're a fashion editor, because you have no idea. You know, we don't. Sometimes we will get a little tip off of, you know, the designer that they might wear, or the colour that they might wear, or we might be able to make some educated guesses. But often it's, you know, a real surprise. So you have to have quite an encyclopedic knowledge to think, hang on, has this dress been worn before? Is this relevant in any way? I know, really sad, I just started my maternity leave, and the Queen made an appearance at Sandringham to kind of kick off her Platinum Jubilee celebrations. It was, I think it was the beginning of February, so around when she kind of first, the day that she kind of became Queen. And she was wearing this pale blue dress with a sort of lace trim, and I was immediately like, oh, that's the Wedgwood dress that she wore. She'd worn it in Ireland. So you kind of make all these little connections and things, which is really fun. But yeah, and then it's just a case of scrambling together a point of view, really, because I think, you know, at the Telegraph we pride ourselves on not just saying, oh, she's wearing this. We say, why is she wearing it? What's the decision behind that? What's the symbolism? So you always have to make those connections as quickly as you can, really. Just gonna close
That's the
this
thing,
curtain
isn't
a
it?
little
It's
bit.
never just a dress. It's never just an outfit. There's always more to it, more to why, what those, you know, colours mean, or which we'll go into, I'm sure, in great detail a little bit more in a second. But first of all, should we talk about your book in general? I've got my copy here. Where did you begin? Because, you know, 70 years of style that you've covered there. How many billions, millions of pictures did you need to go through, and outfits did you need to really kind of look at?
Oh my gosh, thousands, honestly, thousands. I literally went through every I worked with Getty on the imagery, so all the pictures are from Getty's archives, and I really spent a few days just combing through almost every picture there's ever been of the Queen, basically. And I saved them all into different folders. I think by the end of it I had about 2,000 pictures, and there's 200 ultimately in the book. So then it really came down to doing all the research around it as well. I mean, my previous book was about the Duchess of Cambridge. She has, you know, it's only 10 years. The internet has existed during those 10 years. I've been a journalist during those 10 years. So I kind of knew everything. But this was a really exciting kind of discovery journey for me, because I was going back into the newspaper archives, looking back in books, biographies of the designers that she's worked with, and I was uncovering all these stories. So it was really exciting. And then I sort of had to match up the outfits that were being spoken about with what pictures I could find. So that kind of was a real process of elimination. And yeah, I mean, it was just really fun. And yeah, I actually in the end was emailing people at Getty saying, I think you've got the wrong year for this one, and I think this is a bit different, because I was sort of trying to match it
You
all
were telling
together. So
them. Brilliant.
yeah,
Well, yeah, and you sort
but
of
no,
touched on it there, but comparing the process for this to when you did your previous book, which is obviously to celebrate a decade of the Duchess of Cambridge being in the royal family. I mean, it's just a whole different beast, isn't it? Covering the Queen style, it's just so many more decades, eras of fashion, so many things to take in, I guess.
yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, it's just astonishing, her style trajectory. And I think it was just so thrilling for me to find, you know, these little stories. Like one of the ones I really loved that I found in the Telegraph archive was these dresses that she used to wear on her tours in the, I think if I go to the next slide, I can,
Oh, yeah.
oh, hang on, that's not working. Yeah, so this beautiful dress on the far right is an example of these. You know, you always think the Queen wears bespoke clothing. You could never wear the same. It's not like the Duchess of Cambridge wears Zara and we can all go out and buy the same thing. But in the 1950s, the Queen loved this brand called Horrocks's, and it was sort of, the kind of, I'm trying to think of a good example. If Rixo, the brand, it was kind of
Yeah.
that brand of its time. Kind of real treat dresses. Women would buy them to wear on their honeymoon and things like that. And the Queen would wear this brand. So it was an example of, that women could go out and buy the same dress that the Queen wore, which now is kind of unheard of. So it was, I kind of always got a little buzz when I'd find out things like that.
Yeah, you must have found so, I mean, we'll go through some more in a minute, but so many gems kind of along the process. As it is the Jubilee weekend, shall we sort of take it back, which I know you do in the book as well. You do start at the very beginning, the coronation, and the kind of the first chapter of the book, I guess, is all about that build up to that coronation and kind of that transition from princess to queen. So tell us a little bit about that period and why was that such a important, and also it felt like a very condensed, very quick style evolution that she sort of went through in that time, didn't it?
I mean, absolutely. If you think the Queen came to the throne when she was 25 years old, I mean, most of us don't really have a clue about what we're wearing when we're 25. I mean, you're everything's changing. Your own style is evolving. So she was really so young to be sort of thrust onto the world stage, and actually she'd really been in the limelight for a long time before that. Even when she was born, although she wasn't kind of destined to be queen at her birth because her father wasn't meant to be king, she was still kind of greeted as this very exciting royal baby. She was hailed as the most famous baby in the world. Everyone wanted to know what she was wearing, and this was in the 1920s. And it was very sweet throughout her childhood. Her and her sister were always dressed exactly the same. So it was very kind of democratic and very sweet, not especially regal. But you then see this very quick transition kind of after the war, really, where she suddenly starts being given really beautiful jewelry by her grandmother and as gifts as well. And she starts using the same couturiers as her mother, which is how she came to have an amazing wardrobe of clothing already, really, by Norman Hartnell. I think if I go to the next, I think I have to keep.
Oh, yeah, you've got another slide.
Yeah. I'm just going to go to the next one and see if it's what I think. Oh, yes. So, yeah, this is her when she became engaged to Prince Philip, and also when she was on tour in South Africa just before her wedding as well. And, she's really starting to find her style as a young woman here. And but it's still very kind of low key. So in these engagement pictures, she's wearing a dress that she wore on her tour in South Africa, which was just before her engagement was announced. So she's recycling. She's not kind of having these grand elaborate outfits for every occasion, but she's starting to learn. She's got the strand of pearls. Everything's very proper, but she is really becoming a style icon of her time as well.
Yeah, and she's kind of polishing up, ready for the part, I suppose. And if we talk about the coronation dress itself, what sort of facts and things did you, I bet you found throughout all your research lots of interesting things that you never knew before about the making of that gown. And also I'd love to know how you think it's aged over 70 years.
Yeah, so coronation gown was one of the most spectacular dresses ever created, I think. And it's a shame, that the photos don't really necessarily do it justice. You can't see that kind of intense detail of it. But the Queen worked again with Norman Hartnell, who was really the family's go-to guy. He had started working with the Queen Mother in the late 1930s and had become very trusted, and so he made the Queen's wedding dress. And what was so special about him was that he realized the power of clothing to send messages, and so he knew that it wasn't just about creating a nice dress, that this dress had to convey something. So he worked very closely with the Queen. They went through 9 different designs before they landed on the one that she finally wore on the day. And it's this really beautiful, intricate white gown with this beautiful embroidery, and the embroidery is all different flora and fauna from the countries around the Commonwealth. The realms over which she would reign. So there's nods not only to England with roses, to Wales with leeks. One of the little snippets I loved was that Norman Hartnell was like, I want to put daffodils on because they're so much prettier than leeks. But leek was the correct symbol, so they had to do a pretty leek on the dress. I think it took 6 embroiderers 3,000 hours to sort of complete this look. So it's absolutely spectacular. Another little snippet that I loved about it was the Queen. She, after her coronation, went on this Commonwealth tour, and she wore the dress at various openings of Parliament in different countries, and she described the dress as being like a radiator to wear, because it had all these sort of layers of horsehair, crinoline to keep its beautiful shape. So I think it was very, very intense.
Bit warm in there. Bit warm.
Clothing. Absolutely, yeah.
And what do you think, how do you think it's aged across 70 years? Do you think people look back at that now and still just think, wow, it is a wow gown, a wow thing, isn't it? It's spectacular.
It absolutely is, yeah. I mean, I think probably if there was a coronation of a queen today, although the sort of the fabrication process and the techniques used might be a little different, I think the overall effect would be very similar. It's that timeless grandeur, full of this beautiful symbolism. I think it really has stood the test of time, and it's actually going on display this summer at Windsor Castle. So anyone who wants to go and see it for themselves can go and visit it. I'm going to go because I just
definitely going to go and see it. Yes, amazing. Now, obviously, that was a huge moment, but then from there on, how do you think kind of the look that we all know and love the Queen for now, the coloured skirt suits, the hats, the bag, the shoes, how did that develop, and how long did it take her to sort of find that look and settle on it, that signature look?
So I think, as I kind of said before, in the 1950s, the Queen was really tapping into the trends of the 1950s, and they worked perfectly for a Queen because they were very ladylike, very elegant. It was all those nipped waists, the Dior new look, huge skirts. They were perfect for a young Queen. But actually, then you get to the 1960s, and hang on, there's a youthquake, there's mini skirts. This is not something that a Queen who's kind of getting into her late 30s by this point can really do. So she has to sort of rethink her approach a little bit at this point and sort of work out how to dress for her role, a very unique role. There weren't really many women like her. It's not like there were loads of women going out to work or women on the world stage as leaders. So this was, really her own way of doing things. And so it's at this point that we actually really see the foundations of the look that we kind of know and love today, which is a very brightly coloured coat, a fabulous hat that pretty much matches the outfit in some way, a pretty sensible shoe, one that's good for walking around long days, opening hospitals and cutting ribbons and things. And the elements that are there still from when she was a very young woman, I think, are the accessories. And I think this is a sort of formula that she really learned from her mother and her grandmother. it was, this was that time when, women wouldn't leave the house without their hat and their gloves on. And she was still doing that even when everyone else was kind of abandoning that a little bit. So she's really kept to that even today. So the handbag always hooked over her arm, the beautiful hat, the gloves. Every queen outfit has to have those little ingredients, but
Those
it's amazing
elements.
how much she can play with that.
Well, yeah, and also though how important it is to her as an icon, as a global figure that everybody recognizes. If she walked into a room, you'd know exactly who it was, wouldn't you? You'd never even doubt it for a second. Um, I
Yeah.
know we've had a few questions already from everybody coming in, and please do keep sending your questions in, by the way. But Margaret is one lady who's already got in touch, and she's asked a question that I also want to know a bit more about, which is the people behind that look. So, Bethan, I mean, I know Angela Kelly has worked with the Queen for a very long time now, hasn't she? What can you tell us about her and her role?
Yeah, so Angela Kelly has been absolutely integral, really, to making the Queen remain a style icon even into her 90s. So I think I kind of said earlier that the 1990s were not such a brilliant time for the Queen style. She perhaps didn't really have someone who was really keeping a very close eye on how she was looking in photographs and how flattering her clothing was. And Angela Kelly, who's written a couple of books about her work with the Queen, she has come out and said, when she joined the royal household in the late 1990s, she was really quite frustrated because she thought, the Queen is this wonderful woman. She's doing this incredibly important job, and actually she's not really being serviced properly by the clothes that she's wearing. So slowly Angela Kelly kind of took it upon herself to help refine the Queen's look, find some better designers, and really make it the brilliant combination that we know and love today. I'm just going to
She's sort of
get the
sharpened it
next.
up, hasn't she? And sort of kept it really streamlined, kept it really classic, but still managing to move it on, make things look really interesting and cool.
Yeah, she's made it the Queen. I mean, this is the page in my book where I kind of speak about Angela Kelly, and the reason I chose these two pictures, I loved the story behind this silver gown, and Angela Kelly's kind of spoke about how this gown was inspired by 1930s film stars. So it's this really glamorous reference, the kind of reference that you would see in a fashion show, but she's made it a look that's appropriate for the Queen and what she's doing. And similarly, I mean, I think we all absolutely loved this. When the Queen went to London Fashion Week in 2018. And it was really Angela Kelly who kind of engineered that moment to create the Queen Elizabeth award for British design. And so now every year the royal family give an award to a different young fashion designer. And for the inaugural one, the Queen was on the front row next to the Queen of Fashion, Anna Wintour, and just next to them, Angela Kelly there. But she spoke
Yeah.
about how this outfit that the Queen wore to London Fashion Week was inspired by a kind of Chanel suit. So she's taken that Chanel reference and made it perfect for the Queen. And I love that here she's wearing black gloves because it's just that little twist and that little extra zhuzh of chic, I think. So yeah, Angela Kelly, she's been described as the Queen's right hand woman, perhaps less favourably as AK-47 because she's sort of known for her determined attitude, I think. And she's
Okay, yeah.
really, she's really the kind of the keeper of the Queen's wardrobe, her jewels, as well as being a kind of a confidant, I think.
Absolutely. Even her umbrellas match, don't they? Everything is so well planned, well executed, every single outfit. Who are some of the other kind of people behind the scenes that people at home should know about. You know, obviously we sort of touched on some of the people, the designers that she loved when she was young, like Norman Hartnell. There's, you know, people like Stuart Parvin, who she loves now. Tell us a little bit about some of the key favourite designers, I suppose.
Yeah, so in the book, I interviewed Stuart Parvin, and he is the only designer who creates clothes for the Queen apart from Angela Kelly now. So, you know, he's in a very trusted position. And he just was really interesting because he just spoke about how closely they judge the fabrics that they're going to choose. You know, it's only the most luxurious fabrics that they will use for the Queen's clothes. You know, everything has to pass that crease test. It can't scrunch up and have a wrinkle in it. It's got to be completely beautifully smooth. And he also spoke about how the Queen really prioritizes her style. You know, she's very interested in it because she knows how important it is for her to look the part in her job. I also interviewed Rachel Trevor Morgan, who works with Stuart and creates matching hats for his designs. And Rachel was wonderful because she really brought to life how even those closest to the Queen appreciate this incredible trajectory that she has. So when Rachel's looking for inspiration, she looks back at the 1950s photographs of the Queen and takes inspiration from those hats. So I really loved that, and I think they are kind of a bit of a dream team for the Queen now, because they just really get it right almost every time, and I'm sure this weekend we'll see some outfits created by them. So yeah, and there's been lots of other designers over the years, and I think what's astonishing is, you know, often these are really people who are more dressmakers than designers. One of the stories I uncovered was about when the Queen wears trousers, because it's so very rare that she ever wears trousers. And the designer behind a pair of trousers that she once wore, I mean, he worked from his house. You know, he was a tailor who worked from home, and he was like, oh yeah, I've made loads of pairs of trousers for the Queen. You know, so it's a kind of a cottage industry, and it's supporting this British craftsmanship.
Yeah. Shall we, to touch on a few more different designers, shall we go through a few favorite looks, favorite moments, and key kind of just iconic Queen outfits that you might have a story or two to share about? Have you
Oh my
got?
gosh, there's so many of them. This is quite a hard question for me to answer, but I wanted to pick out this one because it's not really a famous outfit. But I just think it's incredibly chic. This pink silk fuchsia cocktail dress, which the Queen wore when she was giving Richard Nixon a tour of Buckingham Palace. And I think it's so simple, it's so beautifully made, it's a gorgeous colour. And I also love her wearing pink because pink is a colour so associated with femininity, womanliness, and very traditional. You know, this is a woman who's on the world stage. She's meeting presidents, she's meeting prime ministers, and she's never been afraid, even in these very high stakes masculine situations, to wear a bright pink outfit. So I also loved this example of her. You know, she's
Yeah,
visiting the army, they're all in their camo, and she's there in her bright pink outfit. And I love how
unmissable.
proud she, yeah, absolutely. So I really loved how kind of proud she was there. And then another favourite was, hang on, let me just, yeah. So I remember being in the office actually when this look dropped, the pictures of it. So this is the
Yeah.
Queen arriving at Sandringham, and she's wearing, you know, we all know that you know, if she's not wearing a hat, she's wearing a silk headscarf. You know, it's a real signature piece of hers. But when she wore this Burberry one, I mean, it was just this big fashion moment. And I loved, again, she was just kind of playing with us a little bit. She's not wearing a brightly coloured coat. It's a very chic, almost Max Mara-esque camel coat, but she just looks so stylish, and I love those country looks of hers. I just think, you know, it's a style that she's completely made her own.
Yeah, her
And
dress down, her country style, her dress down style is just as chic and impressive and put together as her really formal style, really, isn't it?
totally, it's so elegant. And even, you know, in the tartans that she chooses to wear, there's always a sort of a story behind it all. So she really, yeah, she's so clever.
Yeah.
I
Have you
think
got
those are,
any other?
I mean, there's some of my favorites. I mean,
I mean,
there's loads more as well.
I'm sure we
um
will. I mean, I know that we're going to go through more pictures in a second as well. I was going to say, I know jewelry is obviously the Queen's jewelry box. Can you even imagine? Such a key part of her look, and so often she chooses pieces based on the symbolism and the meaning behind them, or the person that's given her the pieces. Um, but rather than going into tons and tons about the jewelry, can I ask you, Bethan, what would you steal or borrow for a day from Her Majesty's jewelry box? What's your favourite piece?
I mean, can I say all of it? um
Ah.
um oh my gosh, so many incredible pieces. Another story I loved, when I was researching the book, was that the Queen's mother, when she was Queen, you know, Norman Hartnell said to her, "Oh, you know, what jewelry can you put with this gown?" And she said, "Oh, well, I don't really actually have that much jewelry." Um, and the Queen has never had such a problem, because her grandmother, Queen Mary,
Ah,
was an absolute magpie, and she just had the most astounding jewelry collection, which her granddaughter obviously inherited. So she's got some, I mean, some absolutely beautiful pieces. So yeah, I whittled it down.
yeah.
I would love to have a go
What
wearing
is this
this.
going to be? Like a top 10, top 5?
So the Grand Duchess Vladimir tiara, which is this one,
Ooh,
it's sort of the small black and white picture here,
the thumbnail in there.
but it's,
Yeah.
yeah, it's absolutely stunning tiara. It can, so I don't know if you can see, but it has these kind of looped sections, and you can hang either pearls or emeralds from it, or you can wear it in the widowed style. So the widowed style is when it doesn't have anything dangling down. Sorry, that's a
Wow.
very
So
bad
it's like
word,
a
dangling.
customizable mix and match
Exactly.
piece.
Yeah, one night emeralds, another
Wow.
night pearls, another night just let the diamonds glimmer. But
How
there's a
lovely.
very fun story behind this. Well, not fun actually, dramatic, because
Sure.
it belonged to this Russian Duchess. Obviously, it was made in
Oh, yeah.
1847, and then you know, at the time of the Russian Revolution in 1917, the you know, these grand people with their incredible jewels had to flee the country and smuggle out all their worldly goods. So that the tiara was smuggled to London, but during the kind of smuggling process, it became badly damaged. But Queen Mary bought the tiara, had it restored, and it's now become, you know, part of the royal collection. So I think that's beautiful. And then the picture of the Queen, she's actually in a train here, I think. You know, as you do, get on a train in your kind of your fur and your ball gown and all your
Yeah.
jewels. But the earrings here are were again inherited from Queen Mary. Incredible diamond earrings. She wore part of them on her wedding day, and then the necklace belonged to Queen Victoria. So I think I'd accessorize the tiara with those pieces. It's just very
Nice.
subtle look. Yeah.
Nice. Wow, wow. My answer to that
Mm.
question is the Grima brooch, never forget, which is
Oh yes.
it's like a huge sort of ruby that is kind of, well, raw cut, isn't it? It's just not very polished. And it was a gift, I think, from Prince Philip, from the designer Andrew Grima in the 60s. And it was just so different to everything. Oh, you've got a picture. There it is.
I've got a
There it is.
picture, yeah. And
That's
that
my
was
favourite.
actually, yeah, so that brooch, you just said it was a gift from Prince Philip. And I love that brooch as well, because, you know, most of the Queen's jewelry is sort of
So polished.
Victorian or earlier,
Yeah.
and this is a modern contemporary piece, and it obviously has that kind of love story behind it, and actually when she wore it then, that was her first public appearance after Prince Philip's death. So she
Oh,
very carefully considers what she's going to wear and when, um, and
that's the thing,
that
isn't
was
it?
a good example of that, I think. Yeah.
Planning goes into absolutely everything, doesn't it, when it comes to every element of everything she wears.
Yeah.
Something I was going to talk to you about was obviously in our role as fashion editors, something I always love is when we go to a modern day catwalk show. You know, it could be anyone, couldn't it? It could be Versace, it could be, you know, Alexa Chung, and they show us the catwalk collection and we say, what's on your mood board? And it's so often the Queen, isn't it? She is a muse to all still now. So tell me a bit about that, Bethan. How did that kind of come to be that she sort of inspires so many designers? And also, I guess, well, I don't know. I just when you think about kind of Princess Margaret was originally that kind of figure for so many designers. So how did it kind of become the Queen?
Yeah, it's such a good question, and such a good point about Princess Margaret as well, because she was the one who could really buy Christian Dior couture, whereas the Queen would be seen as unpatriotic if she'd worn Dior, whereas for Princess Margaret that wasn't really a problem.
She
And I
could
think that's
indulge, couldn't
actually the
she?
difference. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Margaret could follow the trends. She could, go to different designers, and no one would really mind that. Whereas for the Queen, she always had to find this uniform and find this very unique way of dressing. And I think that is what has come to inspire designers, is that she has a very singular style. And as we were just saying, you see her from a mile off and she's the Queen. And so I think people love to sort of riff on that a little bit. But there's a really amazing array of examples of designers being inspired by the Queen. So you have everything from this page that I've chosen here was Erdem's Spring Summer 2018 show at London Fashion Week, and he sort of imagined the Queen in the 1950s meeting Duke Ellington, and so this kind of jazz meets regal vibe. So it was a really interesting kind of mashup of ideas, but all the dresses were these beautiful embellished pieces. You had the beautiful long gloves, all the regalia, the insignia, and all the jewels, and this dress here that the Queen wore is remarkably similar. So I think designers love to look back to that kind of vintage aspect of the Queen. But I also, for the book, I spoke to Ian Griffith, who is the creative director of Max Mara, and he has done shows inspired by that country style of the Queen, which I think, he works for an Italian brand, and I think they love that very British, very classic look as well. And then you even get very young designers, who you might not necessarily expect to find the Queen relevant, who love to have a bit of fun with her style. And I think we've definitely seen younger designers like Shrimps, Hannah Wayland doing that as well. So, and even Gucci, Alessandro Michele has been inspired. So there's a huge array, all different designers. And I think what it comes down to is that the Queen just is so sure of her style. She's not chopping and changing every time there's a new trend to try. She knows what she likes, she knows what works for her, and she just goes for it, and she enjoys it. And I think people really admire that. And there's such longevity now. There's this amazing kind of sort of journey that we've seen her go on. And so there's so much you could have 10 different fashion shows inspired by the Queen, and each one could look a little bit different, really. So I think it's
That's it,
brilliant.
isn't it? It's all creative interpretations, but ultimately, I suppose the lesson we can all learn from her is find your style, what suits you, and stick with it. I've got
Absolutely.
one more question to ask you, and then I'm going to open it up to the floor because we've got tons of lovely questions here from
Great.
everybody at home. But I want to know, Bethan, what are you doing this Jubilee weekend, and what are you going
Oh, great question, Caroline. Well, as I
to
said, I'm at a bit of a loss because, you know, I would usually be, you know, holed up in the office furiously writing about every different
We'll
outfit that
be
every member of the
tuning
royal
in
family's
frantically.
wearing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm gonna, yeah, I am actually just gonna sit on the sofa with my baby and watch Trooping the Colour and just kind of enjoy it and think about what I might write, but to actually not have to write it. So I think that would be really nice. On my street, we're having a street party as well.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, on maternity leave, I've basically been wearing a lot of stretchy trousers and baby sick covered tops. I'm going to use this as a chance to dress up. I think I might put on a nice dress and yeah, join in the celebrations. How about you?
We're having a street party too. The bunting's already up out front. Yeah,
Right.
we're ready to go. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So which brings us to the question time. So if anyone at home has any further questions, please do keep sending them in, but there are tons here. So I'm just gonna rattle through as many as we can. First up, Anne. Anne has asked, apart from her wedding dress, what is the most expensive outfit the Queen has ever worn? And the least expensive, has she ever done high street?
Oh, very good question. Um, I mean, she's had such an incredible number of these elaborate ball gowns, you know, like the one actually that's on this slide here. And I mean, I dread to think of what the bills must have been for those because they are covered in diamante and, you know, gems and embellishments. So I think the coronation gown would have been a
The
pretty
blockbuster.
pricey number, I
Yeah.
have to say. Yeah. So I'm going to say that probably was her most expensive. Yeah, as I kind of said the story earlier about the Horrocks's dresses, I mean, they were by
Yeah.
no means high street at all, but they were slightly more affordable.
Close.
Probably what today would be like 200-ish pounds, something like that. I know some of you will faint at
It's a
that, me
bargain
calling
for
that
the Queen, isn't
affordable.
it? It's a bargain.
Yeah, totally. But I mean, this
So
woman's wardrobe, don't, I mean, she still has a team of dressers that work for her. So it's not only the cost of the fabrics, but it's employing all those people. So yeah, not cheap. You know, we see all these headlines about, you know, Kate or Meghan wearing an
Risky
£8,000
Kate, yeah.
dress, but
No, no.
yeah.
In a similar vein, someone here has asked, do we know if she's ever owned a pair of denim jeans? I suppose we don't. We'll have to
Well,
imagine.
we don't know for sure, but there's a great story that I really want to believe, which is that the Queen was wearing jeans the moment she became Queen, because she was on holiday in Kenya. Um, she was on her way to embark on a Commonwealth tour. Her father wasn't well enough to go himself, so she was representing him. But they stopped off in Kenya for a little break. They were on safari, and you know he died back at Sandringham. And so that, you know, it's sort of, I don't know if any of you saw the lovely documentary The Queen Unseen, which was on the BBC last Sunday, but they showed it was sort of the last reel of video footage that she had filmed as a princess rather than as queen, and it was of all these elephants and giraffes and everything. So it was wonderful. But it's rumored that she was wearing jeans on that trip. So yeah, but there aren't any
Wow.
pictures of her wearing
No, of
jeans.
course they're not. Oh, we'll never know for sure. Susan has asked, does the Queen wear patterns ever? And well, actually, we've seen she does love a floral, doesn't she?
Yeah, she does. I'm going to go back because for some reason I didn't talk about this. I'm not sure. But I did have a lovely florals page ready for everyone to look at, so I'll go back to it. But yeah, she
Oh,
loves a
here.
floral.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah,
Especially for
yeah,
Chelsea Flower Show.
yes. Bit of literal dressing going on. This was also this picture here was at the Eden project last year, so that was very fitting for her to wear a floral pattern. again, I love this, she's meeting all these kind of dignitaries, and she's wearing a floral gown, why not? And then this beautiful picture of her with Princess Anne with roses next to them. So yeah, lots of florals. She's worn checks as well. There's a lovely picture in my book of her wearing a kind of houndstooth coat. But I think she's quite careful in her in the patterns that she wears, because she knows that she's being photographed, and she
Right.
knows that it's not, always necessarily the easiest thing to photograph patterns. Don't know if you can see that, but that's a
Yeah, we can.
lovely houndstooth coat. So yeah, she dabbles in a pattern here and there, but I think block colours are her
Her
staple.
go-to. That's the thing, isn't it? She
Yeah,
says she needs to be seen to be believed. Seen to be believed? Is that right? Yeah.
yeah, absolutely.
Christine has asked on that note, does the Queen have a favourite colour to wear? And is there a colour that she wears most often?
So I think blue is her fit, and it's not necessarily a colour that we would always think of with the Queen. But I think blue is her sort of most consistent, most worn colour. And she looks lovely in those kind of pale, pastely blue
The duck eggs and
hues
yeah.
as well. She doesn't necessarily wear those kind of bright cobalts very much now, but once she really did used to wear that a lot. Something I really noticed in my research was actually it's only really in her 90s that she's completely embraced lime green as well. So I mean, it's never too late to find a new favorite color. But yeah, for her 90th birthday, she wore these kind of this beautiful acid green outfit, which made neon green suddenly become a kind of trending color. I think we've got a picture of
We've
it.
definitely got that
Oh
picture. There she
yes,
is.
yeah. Um,
Yeah,
and Harry and Meghan's wedding.
hashtag neon at 90, wasn't it? Was trending on Twitter that day.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, so all kinds of gorgeous colors, lots of yellow
And
as well.
also, Christina has asked, is there a colour she'd never wear? Any colour off
So
limits?
black, royals only wear black in mourning. So she wouldn't wear kind of a little black dress as a kind of chic evening option or anything like that. Although there is actually a brilliant story of in the 1950s, she was going to this kind of gala night where she was going to meet the likes of Marilyn Monroe, and Norman Hartnell persuaded her to wear a black velvet gown. And, she was a real kind of
Risky.
fashion sensation that night, but it's definitely an exception. She would more ordinarily wear bright colours. I don't think black is something that she would only really wear for a funeral or a very somber, like Remembrance Day kind of moment.
Yeah. We have another question here, which is actually from an anonymous sender, but it says, where does the Queen keep all of her clothes? Bethan, what do we know about this wardrobe? Is it just an absolute monster wardrobe? Is it organised by colour? What do you know?
Oh well, I wish I'd been able to go into that wardrobe, because oh my, that would have been amazing. I think it's all at Windsor Castle. Her jewels are, I think, in vaults at Buckingham Palace. I'm sure it's all very much spread around, but that's another of Angela Kelly's jobs, is to sort of maintain the Queen's wardrobe and to keep it all in pristine, museum-worthy condition. So, I mean, I really hope that one day we get an incredible exhibition of the Queen's fashion,
Oh, you can
because
see
I
it
would
coming.
love to
You'll
see
probably
that.
curate it better, no?
I mean, that would be my dream. That would be the dream. Um, but um, but yeah, I mean, I think we saw, when Princess Beatrice wore one of the Queen's Norman Hartnell gowns for her wedding, that is a dress from the 1960s, a couture gown, and it's been perfectly preserved. So, she's not just chucking it in the washing basket or anything, and, like the rest of
Start
us.
stuffing it in the back of an old wardrobe. No, these are
Yeah,
well preserved, aren't
in
they?
an IKEA
Um,
bag in the garage.
like all of my junk. Someone else here has asked another really great question, which is just how has her style influenced other members of the royal family? I suppose you sort of touched on it there with Princess Beatrice sort of borrowing one of Granny's gowns for her wedding, but how has it sort of influenced the wider family?
I think the Queen is like this beacon of appropriate, proper, respectful dressing. And I think you see all the other female members of the royal family kind of being as respectful as her. So the wearing of hats, I mean, obviously you don't see them wearing hats quite as often as the Queen, but anytime they go to church or anything like that, you'll see a hat, whereas many other women wouldn't. It's also rumoured that the Queen is quite makes it known that she prefers skirts to trousers for public engagement. So although we have seen some of the younger members of the family experiment with trousers, I think dresses and coats are more the order of the day. So I think it's that sort of subliminal messaging that you might see. Another sort of commonly accepted ritual is that the Queen will approve the wedding dresses of other members of the family as well. So, I mean, I'm sure she wouldn't exactly say, "Oh no, you can't wear that" a few days before, but I think they will really have that in mind, that it's something that the Queen
There's going to be a
would
show and
like.
tell. Yeah, there's
Yeah,
going to be a show and tell, quite a high stakes show and tell, you might say.
I mean, imagine. Yeah.
I can't. Um, Cordelia has asked, is the Queen encouraged to recycle her outfits? Does she rewear her pieces again and again? Something she does, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's something that was very ingrained in her from a young age. So there's brilliant stories. I think I spoke earlier about the 1947 tour of South Africa that the Queen went on with her family before she became engaged to Prince Philip. And actually, a lot of the clothes, although they were new and very stylish, were made from fabrics recycled from pieces in the Queen Mother's wardrobe, and they reused the fabrics to make new clothes. So I think it's always been sort of in her psyche to use things again. There's also on the next slide, there's so this image of the Queen in this long blue dress on a visit to Saudi Arabia. That wasn't necessarily something she was going to wear again, looking like that. So she had it altered when she came home into more of a sort of knee-length dress that she then wore again. So, she'll sort of customize things and make them work in a different way. Yeah, but she definitely rewears. We've seen her re-wearing outfits, like her outfit that she wore to Kate and William's wedding. She later wore in Australia. So, she's not a one-hit wonder kind of woman.
I think we've got time for just one or two more questions. So if anyone wants to send any last thoughts in, please do now. But Shelley wants to know, what does she wear for bed? Does she have specially designed nightgowns? Bethan, do tell.
That was one area I didn't actually discover, but I will tell you a slightly funny related story, which was a few years ago. The founder of Rigby and Peller wrote
Yes.
a book, a tell-all book about, well, I say tell-all, tell something book about her time as the Queen's official lingerie provider.
Yeah.
Outfitter, yeah, I'm not sure quite what you would call that. And she would personally go and fit the Queen for her lingerie. And she spoke about walking into the Queen's room and her being ready for a lingerie fitting, shall we say. And yeah, when she wrote that book, that was then the end of her relationship with the royal household. So I think if anyone spilled the beans on what the Queen wears to bed, then it would not go down well in the palace. So I shall leave that stone unturned, I think.
The very, very, very last question that I'm going to ask from the audience questions is from Janet. Janet has said, which of the Queen's dresses over all the years would you personally like to wear?
Oh my gosh, this is a brilliant question. And we have two of the dresses in front of us right now, so this is perfect.
Oh, right.
Or do we? Or on the slides? I don't know if we can bring the
Oh, no,
slides
yeah,
up.
hang on.
Yeah,
There we are, yeah.
yeah. Sorry, I hadn't quite realised I've been referring to those slides, but I don't know if they've been up the whole time. I'm sure you
I
got to
think they've
see.
been up and
Um,
down.
yeah. Anyway, so on these slides right now, we have this dress, this kind of black and white gown was called the Magpie gown, and it was created by Norman Hartnell. It was like a sort of tuxedo slash dress. So I don't know if you can see, but it's got these huge lapels. So it kind of looks like a tuxedo, but it's also a ball gown. And again, this created a huge kind of fashion excitement. And there were patterns in the newspapers showing women how they could make this dress at home. So I would definitely love to have an occasion to wear that dress, because I think that's very cool and actually very ahead of its time to have that sort of menswear style. And then again, I just love these kind of beautiful printed cotton dresses that she would wear on tours in the 1950s. I just think they're so romantic and elegant and ladylike, and I would love one in my size.
Oh, wouldn't we all?
Yeah.
Bethan, thank you so much for answering everybody's questions this evening. I think that's all we've got time for, guys. Thank you very much. Can I just say, if you weren't one of the first 100 subscribers to get a free copy of Bethan's book, please don't worry. You can, of course, still buy it from all good retailers. And there will be, with Telegraph books, tomorrow morning, a 20% discount code coming to all of you. So if you can wait until then, wait for that. And please do also keep an eye on the Telegraph Extra website just for any kind of more upcoming offers, events and competitions. Thank you everyone for tuning in, and see you all soon. Bye.
Thank you.